Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/ask Reddit by Planet Reddit. What is something school taught you which turned out to be false? Just because you are popular doesn't mean you'll be successful. All. Since graduating college it's been all about networks and who you know who likes you. I've literally asked people how they got their job and they said they knew someone that pulled them in with no qualifications or experience. It's a tough pill to swallow. To be fair though, popular in high school doesn't necessarily translate well to business type networking. So there's still some truth there, I think. Probably a strong positive correlation with popularity in high school and popularity in college though, which leads to a job out of college, and it probably correlates with good social skills in general. True story, I have gotten literally every job I have ever had because of who I knew. First job working maintenance at a pool. Grandpa got my brother a job who got me a job. Called me and offered the job. Worked at a barbecue stand for my cousin's boyfriend's brother. He called me and offered the job. Neighbor got me my work study job in college. Went to work on the family farm after college. I have never made a resume for anything ever. You won't have a calculator in your pocket. They didn't teach that. They just said it to shut up smartphones who didn't want to learn math. I mean, you still need to learn math to use a calculator. How else are you going to find out the angle? Via Pythagoras and trigonometry. To put up your speakers to make it so it hits your head level on your chair at just the right angle. You don't need math for that, just vision. College professors would be more strict. Edit. Thank you fellow redditors for my highest upvoted comment. Ironically I might fail one of my classes because of a professor, but at least I have upvotes. Seriously, college was super laid back for me compared to high school in terms of interactions with the staff. Hell, one of my professors even transferred to my WoW server and raided with my guild for a bit. I pulled a solid B in that class, which isn't that bad considering I never studied for it. I was too busy playing WoW with the professor. My profs recommending the class to play Stellaris, Crusader Kings and Hoi 3, and then another prof straight up telling us to play AC3 and Unity for an exam. Meanwhile the HS teacher telling me that playing games won't get me anywhere. I hired a dude in my kitchen once because he did industrial stuff in EVE Online. Really good at implementing systems, event planning, optimizing processes. The body cannot produce new nerve brain cells. Turns out neurogenesis is a very real phenomenon. BTW, I was taught that the body cannot make new nervous cells this year in my senior human anatomy class, long after neurogenesis was discovered. This confused me too when I had nerve damage and the doctor said the nerves would grow back over 3 months. When your peripheral nerves get damaged and regrow, it isn't new nerve cells being generated. It's the same old nerve cells, with their cell bodies in the dorsal root ganglia near the spine, sprouting new axons along the old paths. If the neurons are actually dead, then yeah, you can't produce new ones. BNLMNIH.gov link. I was studying cognitive science in 2000 when they put the nail in that coffin, and we got an email from the professor over the summer explaining that the stuff we learned about nerve cells was, unfortunately, bullshit, and he didn't want the graduates to go forward in life telling people they learned that brain cells don't grow back, because it's wrong now and that would hurt the reputation of the program. That we had a permanent record. Pretty sure I've read somewhere that it is a thing, but it only has warnings about behavior issues a student has, and that after high school it gets deleted. Take this with a salt shaker full of salt. I don't actually know what I'm talking about. Teacher here. This is correct. If you move, it gets mailed to your new school as securely as possible. I have handled some massive permanent records. That said, the size of the record says more about the parents than the child. Odd, my school mailed my records to me when I was switching schools. I was honestly surprised as to how much they have. There were documents and papers about me dating back to 1st grade. It was like a goddamn book. I took all those records home. School asked for them and I said I don't have them. I had transferred mid-semester from an elite school to a somewhat decent vocational school. They never asked for my past grades and I was able to double my GPA. D. Nutrition. When I started elementary school it was the 4 food groups. By high school it was the food pyramid. And by college it turned into MyPlate. You can't ever keep up and it constantly changed, so who knows what'll turn into next. The food pyramid one was specifically pushed by lobby groups for the grain industry. It's why the food pyramid had grains as the largest category, and now more reasonable recommendations have it listed in much smaller recommended portions. First it was the grain industry, then the meats and fat industry. Now though, we'll get it. The one in charge will be clean, fresh, and she's a sugar lobbyist. Sugar's the worst of the bunch. GL America. These are the best years of your life. Dad, middle school sucks. I know. But when you get into high school it will get a lot better. Middle school me graduating. Hell yeah. High school's gonna be awesome. High school me. This fucking sucks. Dad, I know. But when you get into college it's going to get a lot better. I would love that. I always got. Miss, enjoy it. This is the best time of your life. HS, enjoy it. This is the best time of your life. Uni, enjoy it. This is the best time of your life. Right now, furloughed and yet to see a cent of unemployment. Don't worry, it always gets better. I'll admit though, the last one would be a great myth to indulge in. All I'm saying is, if I ever start referring to these as the best years of my life, remind me to kill myself. That grades in elementary and middle school actually matter. I had a 45 in my 5th grade history class at one point, and I loved history. I just didn't like having to memorize the preamble to the Constitution and other pointless things my school made us do. I now read and study history on my own and know far more history than the average person. Same. I am glad I spent a lot of my early years stressing about shit that doesn't fucking matter. I just didn't like having to memorize the preamble to the Constitution. We the people of the United States in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. I mean, I can't prove to you that I typed it from memory, but I know I did. I know the preamble thanks to Schoolhouse Rock, old cartoon that used to come on between shows on Saturday morning. Only parts of your tongue control the different tastes. Here's a good article about debunking the myth. The tongue map is easy enough to prove wrong at home. Place salt on the tip of your tongue. You'll taste salt. For reasons unknown. Scientists never bothered to dispute this inconvenient truth. We actually did something like this in class, 2nd or 3rd grade, with lemon juice, salt, etc. I found it very strange that my experience didn't match with what the teacher said we were supposed to notice. Rather than make a scene I just rolled with it. I wonder if every other student in my class did too? You won't get anywhere in life without learning how to write in cursive. Every year in elementary school my teacher said you'll learn cursive next year, but I'll teach you a little bit now. That happened until high school when the teacher was surprised that half the class couldn't read cursive. You'll learn cursive next year, but I'll teach you a little bit now, not just cursive. Every year, it always seemed like the teacher was spouting off about you'll learn this next year, and next year the teacher was like you should have learned this last year, so we won't stay on it too long. They no longer teach cursive. That they're against bullying. All the schools I've been to don't give a shit if someone is doing it. And if you fight back are the one at fault. Fucking degenerates. You/miserable degenerate. When I was a teacher I had no idea what to do about bullying with kids. Nobody really taught me formally at college or in professional developments. They were so mean to each other. I'd call the bullies' parents. I'd write them up. I'd call administration. I'd call school police. Anything. Nothing ever happened. Except security police would sometimes drag the more violent of the two, or more, out. After a while I just had to try to break up issues as they came up by separating the kids. And often, I didn't even know a kid was being bullied because they were good at hiding it. The victim and the bully, that is. Also because with 34 kids in a classroom, sometimes, it's impossible to see and hear every single thing as a teacher. And sometimes the paras and one-on-ones just straight up didn't do anything or yelled at everyone involved anyway. It was so sad. A little Chinese boy was bullied for his very Chinese name and I just let him hide under / by my desk so he could cry in peace. I couldn't even figure out who made fun of him on the first place. There were 32 second graders in my tiny room. Another boy was made fun of for just being different and a little awkward. I let him stay in my classroom through my prep so he could calm down, and I gave him some candy. Tried calling parents and nobody picked up or numbers were broken. Hawaiians wanted to be a territory so they could join the US and become a state, and were overjoyed when they achieved statehood. Isn't the story told during luau's about how awful it was that the Hawaiian queen was overthrown and how upset everyone was that Hawaii had to be a state under the US government instead of their own? No one wants to be a state. A territory has basically all of the positives of being a state, but also don't have to pay a lot of taxes and don't have a lot of the restrictions. The downside? Your territory don't have votes in the presidential race, just like everyone else essentially. What about Puerto Rico? I'm not American. A territory looks like colonialism and imperialism to me, but maybe I don't understand it. That I can be whatever I want when I grow up. I'm still not a fire truck. And I'm not a Ninja Turtle, unfortunately. I, a white, blonde male, did not grow up to be a muscular black dude with dreads playing professional soccer. One teacher told me that men used to give birth. WHAT, edit, she meant biological, cis, human males, edit 2. For context, I was in 2nd grade, age 6-7. During a break I was reading something. I don't really remember. I think it was a children's magazine. And then just out of the blue, my teacher went up to me and said, "Did you know that men used to get pregnant and give birth? They were just like mommies." I think your teacher was a seahorse. TheVintageNews.com link. Even as recently as the 20th century, the presence of hematuria, or bloody urine, was seen by some in Egypt as a natural bodily process. It's a common sign that schistosomiasis has taken hold, but to the uneducated, it looked like something else. They believed it was a male form of menstruation. Wait, what the yuck? Can we get some context here? Speaking about drives people to commit, our school put a policy in place that disallowed any discussions surrounding and mental health. Over the course of 3 years we lost 3 students and 2 teachers too. I'm now studying psychology and work in community services. Speaking about saves lives. As a nurse you're taught exactly the opposite. If you are afraid someone you love might be considering, ask them. Talk about it. Exactly. Never ever shut down the conversation. You can rely on authority figures to resolve your interpersonal conflicts. Yep, wait till you get to the real world and they are the cause of the conflicts. So very true. I have worked many jobs over many years. At each and every one, if I have conflict with another employee which affects me doing my job, management are the last people you should go to. They will just play both ends against the middle. College equals high paying job. My husband has almost finished his cert in a trade program. I have 2 bachelors, and a Hindushites, and a master's. He made $3 HR more than me in the before time. I feel this so hard. Abstinence only sex ed. Meanwhile there just aren't sex ed classes anymore. I'm a high schooler and have yet to be taught anything. Here's your lesson. Have fun. Use protection. Always communicate. Focus on pleasing your partner. And don't tuck anyone that doesn't want to be. And when in doubt, ask. Best part is, I always use protection. My kink is my partner's pleasure and I ask for consent a couple dozen times. 2 things. Keep these papers, they're important, don't lose them. I ended up hoarding papers all the way from 1st grade to senior year of high school. If you ever get a C or into a fight or cheat, you'll never go to college and you'll be blacklisted from applying or attending any of them. I didn't really think of the impact these things had on me, and suffice to say I feel like I'm worse off for it. That second one definitely had an impact on me. The first time I started getting poor grades in sophomore year of high school, I pretty much figured my life was over, and I started acting like it. Everything just spiraled from there. What's worse was when I inquired about community college, my family and friends collectively thought I had given up. It's strange the pressure you get to go do things perfect the first go around. I before E except with a C. Or when sounds like A, as in neighbor and way. And on weekends and holidays. And all throughout May. You will need this for the rest of your life. Hey, I factor polynomials on a daily basis. Where do you work? High school math teacher. Join our community Discord, link in description. That blood is actually blue. Sorry, what? They taught you that blood is blue? Yep, when I was in 3rd grade they told me that blood when it's inside your veins are blue, and that it's the interactions with the air when you bleed that turn it red. 3rd grade, I've got you beat. My 10th grade health teacher told us the same thing. Obviously, most everyone knew he was wrong, but we put it on the sheet for the test. Columbus found Americas and named SS because he thought he was in India. The second part is definitely true though. Wikipedia. Application of the term originated with Christopher Columbus, who, in his search for India, thought that he had arrived in the East Indies. Cited sources: Wilton, David, the 2nd of December 2004. Word Myths. Debunking Linguistic Urban Legends. Oxford University Press, USA, p. 163, ISBN 978-019-517284-3, retrieved 3 July 2011. Adams, Cecil, 25 October 2001. Does derive from Columbus's description of Native Americans as Zuna Gent and Dios, the Straight Dope, retrieved 3 July 2011. Zimmer, Ben, 12 October 2009. The biggest misnomer of all time. Visual Thesaurus. Hoxie, Frederick E. 1996. Encyclopedia of North American S. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt. p. 568. ISBN 978-0-395-66921-1. Herbst, Philip. 1997. The Color of Words. An Encyclopedic Dictionary of Ethnic Bias in the United States. Intercultural Press. p. 116. ISBN 978-1-864-7897-1. You wear people down with precision, don't you? Helluva response. Wait, this isn't true? That the working adult world is a brutal autocracy, run entirely by slave-driving bosses who are absurdly strict about getting everything done exactly to their specifications. In reality, school was 7 shitty part-time jobs you take home with you and do again at night but with no guidance. Oh. Don't forget that your financial and emotional burden on your family by attending rather than bringing in money. The reality of work is that most people just want to get things done comfortably and go home on time. Yeah, high school was actually a 9-5 job. I still look in awe at people who even did extracurricular activities in HS and enjoyed them, giving them more opportunities. But it's not just a 9-5 job. Everyone I know who has a 9-5 job goes home and does hobbies, watches TV, plays with their kids, asks their significant other. School was having a 9-5 and then another one in the evening where you have no oversight. And if you don't do your night job good enough you get punished. School was working 2 full-time jobs, carrying 50 pounds of textbooks on your back like a walking pack mule, for no pay and being given no basic human rights. Oh. Also your parents can be fined and you can be arrested for not participating. That Napoleon is small and that Marie Antoinette said let them eat cake. It's possible that she did, but nothing indicates that she had political leanings that way. Let them eat cake is a literal translation of a political slogan. It was a protest against unfair taxes from long before she was born. The closest phrase that most Americans would be familiar with is no taxation without representation. One teacher kept bitching to the class about how boys are horrific perverts and deserve to be burned in hell. She got fired after we got a slip around asking for her resignation, sent it to the principal, and didn't show up to her class for 3 days. One guy had recorded her saying all that shit, and there was no dispute after that. Some kid at our school took a video of him getting bullied and he got a 10-day suspension for taking a video. Bully got nothing. I had a pretty cool maths teacher in high school. He was a jokester. He made funny jokes. Sometimes did some silly stuff. He was genuinely a really fun guy and serious when it was time to actually work. Everybody really liked him. It was all fun and games, and work too, until he suddenly stopped doing all that stuff and became bitter towards us and people's grades started getting a lot worse. Turns out one of the guys in my class reported him to someone because joked about the girl he liked. jokes that she wasn't offended by and even found funny. The teacher was fired and is now prohibited to work at a high school ever again. Teachers aren't biased. I laughed out loud at this. I definitely have favorite students. Surprise surprise, it is the ones who try hard and are nice to me. That girl's shoulders, collarbones, legs, arms, backs and knees need to be covered so the boys can learn properly. Don't forget the necks. Those damnable slow-s showing their necks in 102-degree weather. When I was a teenager, the girls could be in a sealed box in another hemisphere and they'd still distract me. That I was important. You are. But sugar is important to a baker but not to a diabetic. One will love you and cherish you, treasure you, and make the best out of you and out of them. Other would just eat you and then suffer. The thing is, you're too sweet to differentiate between these, but you are important to someone no matter what. Sugar is important to a baker but not to a diabetic. Depends on the diabetic. Mistakes are not okay. Well, obviously it is. You'll eventually learn from them. You need to have an university education to get a job. Man, was this preached at my school. There was a lot of accepted bullying for students who went into community college, trade school, or a manufacturing job. We had a vocational technology school partnered with our high school, and some kids attended classes there to learn trades. The general opinion was that Votech kids were imbeciles destined for a life of menial labor, while the gifted kids took advanced placement biochemistry classes and were on track to be masters of the universe. If I had a time machine, I'd tell my nerd teenage self to skip the AP English and go to Votech and learn how to weld. You can read books on the oil rig, and having 6 figures on your W2 sure beats having 6 figures of debt. That writing involves a bunch of uniform, cut and dry steps for brainstorming, with dozens of mind map worksheets, drafting, revising, editing, etc. And that this is the way real writers did it. I'm now a published writer. Yep, no, not how it works in the slightest. That my government is here for the people. The provinces and territories of Canada. I'm in the United States. We had to memorize them in middle school in the mid-zeros. But our teacher didn't update any political border changes that happened after the fall of the Soviet Union. So I didn't know Nunavut exists until I happened to look at a map of Canada as an adult. How much of Canada were you unaware of because of these changes? Nunavut. So you knew all of it? That my grade in school will decide my future, and according to that I will be useless person in future. Uck, you all are teachers. That Americans were savages who just gave us land then sporadically fought over it. Textbooks these days won't even include most of the fighting or violence. Thank heavens my mom talked to me about what I was learning and set the record straight. I learned more about true American history from my own mother at home than the school system. To this day these widely known facts are being ignored in schools and most other places. The yuck. I'm in my 30s, and I remember learning about all sorts of America's misdeeds. Everything from smallpox blankets to McCarthyism. I figured we'd only be progressing. Have these things been taken out? That you were going to be offered drugs all the time. I have yet to be offered drugs, without me asking, for free. There are more people alive on Earth than have ever died. I was taught in 3rd grade that the Brontosaurus was so massively big that it had a second brain positioned in its rear hips that only controlled its tail. I believed this to be a fact until I was talking with my fiancée and told her about the 2-brained Brontosaurus. She said that wasn't a thing. So we googled it, and it is just another thing she was right about. That the food pyramid is accurate. Fun fact. The food pyramid, which featured the 611 servings of grains, was created and pushed by the grain lobby. I went to Christian school. I don't know where to start. There was my English teacher who spent entire classes telling us that dinosaurs were still alive and live in the jungles of South America. My Bible teacher told us about the time an angel came to her window after having premarital sex to say God was disappointed in her but that she could change her ways. My social studies teacher was convinced that rock music was a form of satanic mind control. My Spanish teacher was really great. No complaints. The reason and mechanism for tides is usually about 50% wrong. The way most jet engines produce thrust is typically explained in wrong or incomplete terms. The South didn't rebel from the North American Civil War. because of states' rights as some sort of ethereal high-minded philosophy. It was the right to keep unknown human beings as slave labor. On that note, as good as you think Robert E. Lee was, he lost the war. So any praise must be tempered with that realization. Some Native Americans actually did have written language. The falsehoods and incomplete context apropos Native American culture in American schools is bothersome. Atoms look nothing like the model taught in many chemistry classes. Blood is never blue when it is in the body. Carrots aren't really good for your eyes. And, most importantly, most kids aren't special. By definition, most would be average. Instead of teaching that stupidity, we should teach regression to mean and how to move the mean such that the regression to it is to a place higher than when you started. Then, even though you are merely average, the average is quite good. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.